Disney's Hollywood Studios. Whether you love it or hate it, you cannot deny that this park is now home to some of Disney World's best attractions. And I think it's safe to say that Hollywood Studios is no longer a half-day park, because there is so much to see and do here now. But with the creation of a virtual queuing system, 2 very popular lands for 2 very different types of audiences, and a packed schedule of entertainment, Hollywood Studios has become a very difficult park to navigate. But not impossible, and that's where I come in. Hi guys, it's David here from Beyond the Kingdoms, and today I'm delivering my new top 10 tips to know when visiting Disney's Hollywood Studios. I've got so much to cover today, so let's not waste any more time and just jump right in. Today's episode of Beyond the Kingdoms is proudly sponsored by Deep Dive Threads. Their soft graphic apparel takes your fandom to a whole new level. Stand out in the crowd in comfort with the hundreds of available designs for the whole family. With fresh designs added every Friday, there's always something new to discover. Just visit deepdivethreads.store to start shopping today and use the promo code MAGIC20 to get 20% off your next purchase. Deep Dive Threads, graphic apparel that's as unique as your fandom. Today's tips are broken down into 3 sections. Tips to know in the early planning phase, months before your vacation, key strategies to start your day right and make sure you get on Disney World's newest ride, and additional tips to keep in your pocket on the actual day you visit. Now this of course can all change yet again when Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway opens on March 4th. But if you're kicking off 2020 with a trip to Tinseltown, this is what you need to know. If you want to see and do absolutely everything in this park, and I mean everything from meeting characters, flying the Falcon, and watching all the shows ranging from Disney Junior Dance Party all the way to Fantasmic, Hollywood Studios deserves a full day and a little extra. And I actually recommend visiting this park on your arrival day, and there are 2 reasons why. First of all, rope dropping this park is unlike any other park at Disney right now, and it's exhausting. And you may find yourself crashing around 12 noon. And while you may plan to go back after a quick nap, you may have to skip some things or end up going back to the park a little later than you expected. So the extra day will be good cushion room, especially in these early months of a brand new attraction. The second and real reason I give this park more than a day is the fact that on most nights, you have 2 nighttime spectaculars at or near the same time, making it very difficult to see both Fantasmic and the fireworks, whether it's Galactic Spectacular or Jingle Bell Jingle Bam during the holidays. And this takes me directly to tip number 2. I would pair your arrival day with an evening at Hollywood Studios, specifically to watch Fantasmic. For most of you, arriving to Disney World is a long journey. It either involves a long plane ride or even several hours in the car if you live more locally. After a long day of travel, checking into that hotel and getting settled, Hollywood Studios is perhaps the easiest park to get to. And Fantasmic seems to just fit the bill as something easy to see, yet a classic. I wouldn't watch something like Happily Ever After on an arrival day, just in case you experience travel delays. You don't want to risk missing Disney's best fireworks show. Now the second reason I put Fantasmic here instead of the fireworks is that getting a good seat is still a challenge, believe it or not. Like I said, kids and families still love this show and they line up very early to get a good view. So I recommend booking a fast pass for it or book a dining package. In a perfect world, I would personally suggest a package at the Hollywood Brown Derby. Excellent food, great ambiance that ties into the vintage Hollywood theme, and you'll get a great seat to the show. If you want to learn more about this, I'll leave a link in the description of my full review. But a fast pass will work just fine here, and it frees up fast passes for your full day at this park. And speaking of reservations, let's jump to tip number 3. Hollywood Studios is the one park where not only do you have to book the regular Disney stuff like restaurants and fast passes, but you also have to consider extra experiences in Galaxy's Edge. If you plan to have a drink at the cantina or build your own custom droid or lightsaber, you have more reservations to make. Now the good news here is that walk-in availability is pretty decent now, better than you might think. But if this is a once-in-a-lifetime trip and you simply must get your hands on your own R2 unit, book these experiences. You can always cancel them later if you need to make changes. So those are the early planning tips. Let's now look at some of the tips to know on the days leading up to your trip and how to start your day right at Hollywood Studios. Tip number 4 is to familiarize yourself with the boarding pass system. This is simply a virtual queue that is currently being used for Rise of the Resistance. Disney did use this on day 1 of the new land opening, but hasn't used it since then. So now it's just about that one ride. But the boarding pass system has its limitations. You can only get a boarding pass on the day you visit and once you have physically passed the turnstiles. You cannot send dad ahead of the group to enter the park and get boarding passes for the whole family. Everyone has to wake up and enter the park. But once you're given a boarding pass, you don't have to stay in the park. You can go back to the hotel if you need to. Now, the place to get a boarding pass is on the My Disney Experience app, which means a few little things. First of all, make sure that everyone in your travel party is linked to you and you can see them on your friends and family list. And make sure that everyone's magic band that they're using is listed as active. Once all of you enter the park, you'll see this screen on the first page of the app. Just tap on Find Out More under the picture of the AT-ATs and then click on Join a Boarding Group. From there, you'll be assigned a boarding number automatically, not a return time. And to be clear, you cannot get more than one. Once you're assigned a boarding number and ridden the attraction, the boarding pass system will not let you get a second one for the day. To know when it's your turn to ride, make sure you have push notifications turned on in the app settings of your phone. When your number is called, your phone will be alerted and you'll have 2 hours to get on the attraction. You can also check the current boarding status on the app itself or on digital screens located throughout the whole park. But I've actually gotten a little ahead of myself. I explained how boarding passes work first, just so you know how to set things up on your phone before the day you visit. The next important tip to this is to know when to arrive or leave your hotel. For a recap on my second trip to the park just this last weekend, I arrived at Hollywood Studios at 5 a.m. when the park was scheduled to open at 7. Security didn't open up until about 5:15, and the gates actually opened to the park early at 6:20, and boarding passes ran out by 7:30 a.m. Now, I was among the very first in the park that day and assigned group number 8. But another guest I spoke to left their hotel around 6 a.m. He got into the park around 6:45, which for the record was only about 20 minutes after me, and he was assigned group number 90. So that gives you perspective on how time is everything, and certain small decisions in the morning will make things a little bit smoother. Now, another key thing to know once you actually arrive to the entrance gates is to stick to the right. Most guests seem to line up on this side of the security checkpoint. And after bag check, again, stick to the right, because more people enter from the left side of security. They don't quite stretch all the way to the end. Just please remember to walk and not run. There's no need to put yourself or anyone else at risk. But because of all these little steps, there were only about 10 people in front of me when I got to the turnstile. And that's pretty much why I got assigned boarding group number 8. But don't feel pressured to be one of the first boarding groups, because on the opening day, I got group number 38 and I rode at about 12 noon. This actually let me experience more of the park that morning in comparison to when I was in group number 8. So don't stress. I think a number around 30 to 50 is actually a really great choice. Anything after 100 is a little bit risky. So, you woke up super early, you got in, and you got assigned a decent boarding group number. Now what? Well, that takes us to tip number 6. Depending on your travel group and your personal interest, there are 2 ways to attack this park after rope drop. If you've come mainly for Star Wars, then I would obviously go do the Cantina or the Millennium Falcon first. I personally would do the Cantina first if I couldn't get a reservation because the Falcon has a single rider line. But I know it's early for some to start drinking, and not everyone wants to do single rider because you'll miss some key parts of the queue experience. So, ride first then drinks works well too. Just know that the Cantina is the trickiest of all the extra experiences to do without a reservation. It's not impossible, but it's tricky. If you have kids who really want to do Toy Story Land, then I would go to Slinky Dog Dash after you get your boarding group, and only if you couldn't get a fast pass for it. After that, I would next prioritize meeting Woody or Buzz, because their lines get really big throughout the entire day, and you have to wait outside. I personally would rather wait 45 minutes in air conditioning for Toy Story Mania than stand in a line to meet Woody. That's just me. On day 1 of Rise of the Resistance opening, I got into the park around 6:30, got boarding group 38, and did the Cantina, the Falcon, Slinky Dog, and Toy Story Mania all before 10 a.m. and without fast passes. And if you do exceptionally well and up for the task, you can move on over to Sunset Boulevard next and do Rock and Roller Coaster, followed by Tower of Terror. Meaning you can get all the good stuff in well before lunchtime. But you may need a nap after all of that. Now, tip number 7 is for my younglings who are wondering, how does Jedi Training fit into all of this? Is it still popular? Well, the answer is yes, it's still very popular, but not as difficult to sign up for like it used to be. Guests are clearly prioritizing all the new rides and building droids and lightsaber these days over Jedi Training. So if you're rope dropping, do all of the important things I just mentioned first. Don't be afraid to run to Toy Story Land before signing up for Jedi Training. I just wouldn't leave it past 12 noon. And remember, anyone participating has to be present when you register. And this is by the Indiana Jones store in the Echo Lake section. Now, tip number 8 is something I always say, but as you can imagine, waking up this early on vacation will leave you wiped by midday. So make sure you plan an extra long, good break. When 12 noon rolled around for me, I was ready to fall asleep on a park bench if you let me. So give yourself time in your schedule to rest and go back to the hotel for a nap. If you're staying off property and going back to the hotel seems a little too far out of the way, may I suggest a midday break in the Grand Avenue section? For me, Muppet Vision has turned into the American adventure of Hollywood studios. I love both of these tremendously, and I don't mean any disrespect. But Muppet Vision is a cozy, mellow place to take a nap now. Or even lunch at Sci-Fi, which is oddly a really quiet and relaxing place for a meal. Which leads me to tip number 9, and may come as a surprise to my foodies. Consider skipping table service dining on your full Hollywood Studios stay. I know, I sound crazy, but hear me out on this one. When I visit the park now, I always crave 3 things. Carrot cake cookie at Charlie Carr Cafe, the fried green tomato sandwich at Sunset Ranch, and of course a Ronto wrap at Galaxy's Edge. All of these can be found at quick service locations and don't require reservations. If you do that whole arrival day trick with the Fantasmic dining package at the Brown Derby, you'll still get the best restaurant at the park. That way you can again just leave yourself wide open on your full day. And if you prefer 50s primetime or sci-fi, again, do it on that arrival night. And then just get a Fantasmic Fast Pass. I've dined at all the restaurants here in the last 12 months, and quick service dining seems to be the way to go for me. There are some really complicated steps now, like getting boarding passes, signing up for Jedi Training, and the fact that you have to maneuver through a very complicated entertainment schedule, which is what our final tip is all about. Be flexible. Of all the parks at Disney World, this one requires the most amount of ebb and flow. I am definitely a planner, that's pretty obvious by now, but this is one scenario where I plan a lot and then get ready to adjust everything on the actual day. Your boarding pass number at Rise of the Resistance will dictate a lot. I think it's a genius way to get people in and out of the ride, but I still found myself spending 45 minutes here from start to finish. And this can throw off your expected show times for something like Beauty and the Beast or the Indiana Jones show. And like that boarding pass system, the Jedi Training setup may dictate your schedule a lot too. So all of this is why I give myself a day and then some at this park, and put any table service dining that I really want to do on that arrival evening. This ensures that when I get to Hollywood Studios later in my trip for a full day experience, I am ready to go and able to roll with the punches. I absolutely promise you that if you approach this park with these key tips, you'll definitely get to do it all and really enjoy it. But now I want to hear from you. If you've been to the park recently after all of the new exciting additions and you have some tips of your own, share them in the comment section down below, because I'm going to be sharing a few of these in a future Travel Tip Tuesday video. And don't forget, I've got more in-depth tips for both Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge. But that will certainly wrap things up for today. Like always, thank you so much for watching, and remember, if you can dream it, you can do it.